Hey guys, Marcus Catkin here from Blindside Football. Thank you again for joining me for another daily fantasy update. I hope you're enjoying those 4 o'clock games going on right now, but I wanted to give you some quick news and notes from those 1 o'clock games that we just saw. Bishop Sankey, this is a guy that I've been promoting all offseason as a guy that could really step it up in that Tennessee offense, and we all knew he wasn't going to be the starter from day one, but I think we need to pump the brakes even more on him. Dexter McCluster today actually having more carries in this game than Sankey did. So a little more cause for concern than we were planning for, but Sankey's still a guy where I think talent wins out, and he picks it up at least second half of the year to become the starter and will lead you through your fantasy playoffs. So I think he's a great buy low candidate, but again, another guy that you shouldn't be starting for your fantasy team for at least the foreseeable future. Next up, we got Ben Tate. This is a guy that we knew was basically made of glass, and it was just all about when will he get hurt? Well, it didn't take long, guys. He got hurt very early on in today's game, and we all knew that Terrance West was going to be his fantasy handcuff. And, well, Terrance West obviously did perform well, 16 carries for 100 yards. It was Isaiah Crowell that we saw kind of getting that red zone usage, getting those 2 close touchdowns. So, well, West is obviously the handcuff to Tate. I think we need to slow down expectations on West a little bit, because it looks like, West is going to get the yards, whereas Crowell is going to get those touchdowns. So be mindful of that if you're a Terrance West owner or if you're going out to try to get Terrance West. Next up, we got Bernard Pierce. He fumbled early and gets benched for Justin Forsett. Now, this news is less about Bernard Pierce and more, I think, about Ray Rice. This proves to me even more that this is going to be Ray Rice's job when he returns after his 2-game suspension. So I think this actually creates an even better buy low opportunity for Ray Rice. I think he's going to get an enormous workload and have a really good season this year under Gary Kubiak's running style. So go out and get Ray Rice if you haven't already been following my advice and getting him during the offseason in your draft. Next up, we got Allen Hurns. This is a guy that basically led the NFL in the preseason in receiving yards, and usually you don't want to pay too much attention to the preseason because it's just that. They're playing against second and third string guys, but Allen Hurns gets the start here with Cecil Short still banged up, and he performed very well. Obviously the deep threat there for Chad Henne. 4 receptions, 110 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Allen Hurns is definitely going to have fantasy value in the foreseeable future while Cecil Shorts is out, and is going to be that deep threat for Chad Henne. But I didn't like the play that I saw from Chad Henne today, and Allen Hurns' fantasy value is going to be closely tied to Chad Henne. And this could drastically change if Blake Bortles becomes a starter anytime soon. Next up, Cordarrelle Patterson. I've been taking a lot of heat for this guy in the offseason because I've been so down on Cordarrelle Patterson. And you know what? Despite his 102 rushing yards today, I think it actually proved my point. We're not going to bank on 102 rushing yards every week. That is just simply not repeatable. You should expect 20 to 30 rushing yards out of this guy, but it was his receiving that basically proved my point today. Only 3 receptions for 26 yards. So while we saw a great week from him this week, it is not going to continue. If you went against my fantasy advice and you took Cordarrelle Patterson in your drafts, you need to sell high on him this week because you're going to be disappointed with him in future weeks. Last up, we got Lamar Miller. He's another guy that fumbled early and saw the workload go over to Knowshon Moreno, who took the ball and literally ran with it for 134 yards. Moreno was a guy in the offseason that I kept telling you was going to eventually become the starter over Lamar Miller, and it may be happening sooner rather than later. I thought Knowshon Moreno was brought into this offense to kind of help protect Ryan Tannehill in pass protection. The Dolphins' offense, one of the poorest offensive lines in the NFL. Tannehill sacked the most times last year. So I kept saying eventually this was going to be Knowshon Moreno's job because he needs to be in there to pass block better than Lamar Miller did. And after this fumble, we see a huge opportunity for Moreno here. I think he literally runs with the job here, just like he did in Denver last year, and it's going to become a top 20 fantasy option. So he's another great buy low candidate. So there you go, guys. A lot of great buy low candidates. And then, like I said, check for Allen Hurns on your waiver wire. He should be a fantasy pickup this week. Make sure you subscribe below so you get my daily fantasy updates, and follow me on Twitter @MarcusCatkin.